my name is J.C. Shandor. I'm a resident here in Pound Ridge. I'm also an advisory board member of the theater. And I'm a filmmaker, and I'm a last-minute call-in to do this Q&A here. And I'm absolutely, I was scheduled to just be an audience member because I'm such a fan of both of the gentlemen's work who are going to be coming up. And I had not seen this film yet, and what an amazing venue to get to see it in. I hope you guys were all as blown away as I was. That was quite an experience. So let's bring up the director and the star of that amazing film that we just saw. Cool, right?
Yeah, great curtain. I love the color.
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
You can tell you have two old theater lovers here that were stroking this, but well, I had not gotten to see this film yet. I've seen all your other work, but that was more than I had expected. So congratulations to you both.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I've done a little reading, and I know a little bit about both you guys. But is this your fourth or fifth film together?
Yeah, fourth.
Fourth film together. So and it was your second film that he starred in first when Song started?
Yeah, during 20 years, I made 7 feature films. Yeah, my very first time I worked with him in my second feature film called Memories of Murder. He was the detective in the movie.
The sort of bumbling detective, right? Who was, yeah. So this is 20 years later, or 18 or so, when you guys worked together here. Yeah, amazing. The trust, you can see that. Can you talk a little bit about what is going on in your country that final scene, not final scene, but the penultimate scene when the massacre takes place? Where did that come from? Where such a severe event? What is it that sort of brought this project to you that even in the context of a film, it's a very severe, amazing ending, but just so intense. What is it that's going on in you and in your country and in the world that brought that to you?
뭐 한국이나 뭐 미국이나 모든 나라 마찬가지일 것 같은데, 뭐 우리가 자본주의 시대에 사니까 뭐 가난한 자나 부자가 있는 것은 당연한 얘기인데 이제 그 간격이 점점 벌어지고 있어서.
So I think it's the same in Korea, the US, and any country all over the world. We currently live in the era of capitalism. It's very natural to have, the working class and the wealthy. The issue is that the gap between rich and poor is just widening.
근데 더 공포스러운 거는 이제 그 갭이 있다는 것 자체보다도 이게 왠지 점점 더 벌어질 것 같다는, 앞으로 미래로도 그런 약간 두려움 같은 게 있잖아요. 그런 걸 약간 표현해 봤어요. 그게 뭐 블랙 코미디일 수도 있고 호러일 수도 있고 뭐 여러 가지 다른 장르의 모습을 띌 수 있겠지만 그런 걸 영화적으로 한번 표현해 본 거죠.
But what's even more fearful is that this gap that exists currently, it's only going to widen even further in the future. And I wanted to express that fear that I have, and I wanted to express it through various genres like black comedy and horror.
Amazing. The flip side of that is that what the film does so amazingly, at least for me, is it breaks down the basic humanity of all 8 characters, I guess it is, and 8 main characters. But the the intimacy, that moment when they're under the table, you know, hiding, and then you have the rich and poor in such intimate, and I think it's throughout the film. There's these amazing intimate moments. Another one that sticks out for me is the wife and the mother or the maid, that when she's eating, you know, and they're so intimate, and at times you almost forget, you know, both sides are sort of acting so absurd a little bit that at times you forget who is on which side of it. Was that something that you were doing, that you knew you were doing, or that you were attempting to do in that their lives are so different, but within the family context and what at a fundamental level they're really worrying about? Do you think that common humanity, is that something you were trying to play off of? I don't even know if there's a question there, but it's a
어쨌든 뭐 말씀하신 게 맞아요. 부자랑 가난한 자가 되게 가까이 밀접하게 되는 얘기죠. 그러니까 서로 냄새를 맡을 수 있을 정도로. 예.
You are right. You know, the story is about these situations where the rich and poor come so close to each other that they can smell each other.
보통 실생활에서 많이 분리돼 있잖아요. 비행기를 타도 뭐 예를 들어 퍼스트 클래스 이코노미, 뭐 가는 식당도 다르고. 실제 생활에서는 우리가 물리적으로 많이 찢어져 있는데 이 영화에서는 되게 가까이 붙어요. 그러니까 왜냐하면 뭐 직업이 운전기사고 튜터고 뭐 하우스키핑하고 그러니까 이렇게 아주 밀접하게 인티미트하게 붙을 수밖에 없는 거죠. 그런 되게 미묘한 상황을 다룬 거죠. 예.
But in reality, usually, you know, everyone is divided by class. When you go on a plane, you know, you have the first class and the economy class. People go to different restaurants. So in reality, they're very physically segregated. It's just that in this film, you know, you have these situations where they do come, you know, intimately together. Like when they're hired as a tutor, driver, and housekeeper, they have no choice but to be so close to each other.
근데 이제 말씀하신 그 테이블 밑에 숨어 있는 그 장면에서 이제 가장 가까이 정말 서로 냄새도 맡으면서 가장 가까이 들어가 있는 어떤 숨막히는 그런 모멘트인 거죠, 거기가. 예.
And the scene that you mentioned of the coffee table, it's the moment when they come the closest to each other. They're the most intimate, where they can smell each other. It's almost so intimate that it's suffocating.
선을 넘는 거죠.
It crosses the line.
Yeah. Sung, that moment obviously pays horrible dividends later in the film. So that intimacy is then what leads to this moment of rage. Do you think your character, it's the best way to say this, the seeds of that rage, of that action that changed the whole thing, obviously are set in that moment under the table, but do you think your character had premeditated that or thought about that in advance, or for you, did you play that moment at the party of just an absolute him losing his sense of reality?
그러니까 되게 순간적이겠죠. 아무래도 그 비극은 불현듯 이렇게 다가오는 거고, 사실은 그 현실은 뭐 감독님 그렇잖아요. 영화보다 더 비극적이고 더 잔인할 수도 있고 또 슬픈 어떤 비극으로 끝나는 어떤 그게 세상사인데, 그래서 그것이 그 행동 자체는 우발적이겠지만 그런 행동을 할 수밖에 없는 것은 차곡차곡 앞에서부터 이렇게 자존감이 무너지기 시작하는 그 어떤 것들이 계속 쌓여왔겠죠.
I think the violent moment in the end, it is very instantaneous, and the tragedy comes very all of a sudden. But I think reality tends to be even more tragic and cruel than what you see in cinema. I think life is always more sad than what you see on screen. And although the violent actions in the party scene, although they are very spontaneous, you know, that point in the coffee table scene, that's when his selfhood begins to really deteriorate and being destroyed. It's all those little personal defeats that pile up and lead to that violent moment in the end.
역시 예리하시다. 우리 이제 촬영하기 바로 일주일 전에 우리가 요 똑같은 얘기를 서로 질문했었는데. 예.
So
같은 토픽을.
you're very sharp and insightful because this is something that we talked about just a week before we shot that scene.
I know. Thank you. No, I was kidding. I wish I could say I thought about that in advance, but it is just startling with the way the film progresses. Can you talk about family a little bit? The family's the search for security, search for happiness, search for love, and it's a weird way to say this, but the most happy, joyful moments in the movie are these tiny moments that happen on both sides when a family is just being sort of a family, and you actually you are not wrapped up in class and all these weight that is sort of on both of them. Can you talk? I don't know where I actually don't know much about you and your family, but can you talk about structuring it with these two families?
특히 뭐 여기 와 계시지만 이제 이 기택 그 가난한 가족 보면은 일단 가난하고 이제 잡이 없는데 또 보면 또 되게 옹기종기 이렇게 정감 있고 재밌어 보이거든요. 그리고 밥을 같이 먹는 장면이 많이 나와요. 유난히 같이 둘러앉아서. 예.
In particular, if you look at the poor family with Kitek, although they are all unemployed, they have so much affection for each other. They enjoy each other's company, and you see a lot of scenes where they eat together.
한국에서 이제 그 패밀리라는 단어를 이렇게 식구라는 그 단어로 표현되는데 그게 이제 같이 먹는 입이라는 뜻인데 그래서 먹는 거 되게 중시하는 그런 느낌이 있는데 이제 그런 정감으로 사실 표현이 된 건데요. 예.
So in Korea, the word family is comprised of two Chinese characters that mean eating mouths. So for families in Korea, it's very important to eat together as they show affection.
그래서 이 사람들이 사실 영화에서 나쁜 짓을 하는 건 사실이죠. 뭐 사기를 어떻게 보면 나쁜 행각을 한 건데 사실 또 미워하긴 쉽지 않거든요. 이들이 또 이렇게 뭐 심지어 귀엽달까 그런 느낌까지 있단 말이에요. 그래도 이제 이들이 물론 나쁜 짓을 저지르지만 먹고 살려고 한 짓이고 그리고 가만히 보면 이렇게 충분히 이 사람들이 머리도 좋고 뭐 또 게을러 터진 사람들도 아니고 그러니까 충분히 멀쩡한데 그런데도 이제 잡이 없잖아요. 그게 어떻게 보면 요즘의 시대를 표현하는 것 같아요. 그러니까 특별히 어떤 문제가 있어서 일이 없는 게 아니라 이 경제적 시대적으로 너무 힘들어서 일이 없는 모습이니까. 예.
So if you look at the poor family, it is true that they do commit bad things. They're con artists, but at the same time, it's difficult to hate them. They're almost adorable, and although they do bad things, they only do it to earn a living and support their family. And these characters, they're very smart. They're not lazy, and they're perfectly capable. But it's just that they don't have jobs. And I think that's a reflection of our current times, where even if you don't have any particular faults due to the economy and just your environment, it's difficult to find employment.
반면 그 리치 패밀리 부자 가족들도 뭐 사실 되게 나이스한 사람들이잖아요. 보면은 뭐 물론 뭐 근데 영화나 드라마에서 뭐 부자를 되게 탐욕적이고 나쁘게 묘사하는 경우들 흔하게 볼 수 있는데 그건 너무 쉬운 초이스고 사실 실제는 사실 훨씬 복잡하잖아요. 현실은 그렇게 단순하지 않잖아요. 그래서 그러니까 결국 보면 이 영화에 보면은 악당이 없죠. 네.
On the other hand, the rich family, they're all very nice. And I think it's very easy to depict rich people in cinema and TV as these very greedy and malicious people. But I think reality is never that simple. It's much more complicated. And so ultimately in this film, you have no real villains.
그래서 악당이 없는데도 약간 그런데 악당이 없는데도 무서운 일이 결국은 터지잖아요. 그러니까 그래서 이제 질문하게 되는 것 같아요. 왜 그럴까? 왜 악마가 없는데 왜 이런 무서운 일이 터지는 걸까? 그게 이 영화가 이제 던지는 가장 기본적인 질문인 것 같아요.
But despite the fact that this film doesn't have any villains, it ends with a horrific tragedy, and I think this leads to the question of why does this film end with this tragedy when there aren't any villains? And I think that's the most fundamental question that this film raises.
Yeah, I mean, it what it brilliantly did, for me at least, is the pressure, and I think this is something I know in my own life that I struggle with, which is the pressure is, what are you trying to achieve in your life on both of these families? If you look at them, and they're at total ends of the spectrum, but is it a search for happiness? Is it a search for a feeling of self-worth? Is it a feeling of family or survival? But what's so fascinating is the pressures, certainly with the wife of the wealthy family, and I think with the pressure that's being put on the young daughter and the son, although that seems like he had something actually to be worried about there. He had real reason. But and certainly with the husband, it's like I think if I'd have to go back and look at it again, but it's almost like both families are feeling this same, grinding pressure to keep going and keep fighting for something instead of sort of stopping. And in a weird way, the wealthy family is more tortured by that of fear of losing it or something, which leads me to the sort of very end where the son and father are communicating with each other. Did you feel that the son is falling into a trap, maybe you call it, of if I could just become wealthy and buy that house, like my life will suddenly have meaning, and I will, which I think is a trap we also, at least I find myself falling into. But it's like at some point I'm going to reach a sense of security and happiness, and it'll all sort of make sense. But I just found it terribly poetic and amazing from a filmmaking standpoint, but sad from a humanity standpoint, that the only way he's sort of feeling he's going to achieve kind of bringing his family back together is this sense of going to university and becoming wealthy, and not just becoming wealthy, but becoming so wealthy that you can afford this, insanely fancy house. Can you just talk about that last section, which I felt was amazing?
아까 가족들이 이제 패밀리 백투게더에 관한 말씀을 하셨는데, 그러니까 아까 얘기했듯이 이제 이 가족들이 가난하지만 같이 이렇게 모여서 밥을 먹고 뭐 이런 이제 다정한 장면들이 많이 있었는데, 이 가족들이 이제 영화에서 이제 여러 가지 일들을 저지르고 결국은 받게 되는 어떤 형벌이라고 해야 될까? 퍼니시먼트라고 한다면은 이제 뿔뿔이 흩어지게 되는 것 같아요. 그러니까 되게 모르스 코드를 서로 해야 될 정도로 멀리 아련하게 이제 흩어지게 되잖아요. 그게 어떻게 보면 가장 큰 형벌일 수 있는데. 예.
So you mentioned about the family just before. In this film, early on, you see the poor family really hanging out together, eating together, and all these sweet scenes. But after all the things that they commit, the biggest punishment that they receive is the fact that they can no longer see each other. They're all scattered in the end, so distant that they have to use Morse code to communicate.
영화 이제 시작할 때는 와이파이로 시작했는데 끝날 때는 모르스 코드로.
And the film begins with Wi-Fi and ends with Morse code.
슬프죠. 그러니까 그런 것 같아요. 그 아들이 다짐을 하잖아요. 그 부잣집을 사겠다고. 근데 실제로 우리끼리 한번 계산해봤어요. 그 아이의 그 젊은 애 평균 임금으로 저 부잣집을 살려면은 몇 년이 걸리나 그랬더니 547년 정도가 걸리더라고요. 네.
So it's very sad, the son announces that he will purchase that house, but we actually did a calculation on how long it would take him to purchase that house with his average salary, and it came out to 547 years.
It's a weird.
I found myself.
It's very sad. And I found myself kind of calculating, wanting to know, weirdly, like how wealthy and how poor within South Korea.
So distance.
They are pretty much the greatest distance, or there's that's what I. Song the performances. We'll let you stand in for your whole cast, but it was an amazing performances. Can you talk about how you guys? I'll get into a little technical stuff. How did you guys? Did you shoot this in order? I would imagine, in sequentially for the most part. Not really. Yeah.
뒤죽박죽.
Of
It was
course.
almost.
You already understand.
It always ruins it. I know. But as a group and as a family, did you guys come? Did you know any of those of your fellow actors, and did you come together as a family? And it was amazing what you all did. I feel like you are a family, but can you talk about a little bit of the process as actors?
다 좋아하는 그 배우들이고 그래서 뭐 그렇게 특별하게 뭐 앙상블을 맞추기 위해서만 노력했다기보다는 매일 이렇게 끝나면은 술을 마시면서 많은 얘기를 나누고 그랬죠.
So they're all actors that I really like and admire. I don't think we put in special effort to form this great ensemble. It's just that after shooting every day, we would just drink together and have a lot of conversations.
Every day.
Yeah, the drinking scene seemed very. Is it true that house was mainly a set? I think I had read that at some point.
Yeah.
But almost exclusively, or is there a real house that you modeled that off, or is it entirely the interiors and all of that? Did you build all that out?
Yeah, we built the set of the Rich House. It's all built, and on the ground we built the backyard and the first floor of the Rich House, and in separated sound stage, we built the interior of the second floor and basement and the bunker. Then we all combined it by visual effect, and also his house, the poor house, is also set, and the all poor neighborhood and the alley is all set.
Wow.
We built it in the middle of swimming pool, the water tank,
Right, which
for
is
flood sequence. And
yeah, the flood sequence. Can you talk a little bit about the levels? Is
maybe
that
you're
something
master of water. So I really enjoyed his movie.
I know I was saying there was
lost with the Robert Redford.
there's
yeah.
one shot where the water was up to here that reminded me of that, but the fact that you have people living, I mean, it's a little on the nose, but can you just talk a little bit about the idea of the bunker and the basement, and then the fact that you had the family living, and you even have a line in there where they reference it, right, where they say if you include people who are living just below the surface or as well, it's obviously a little self-explanatory, as a metaphor, but in a beautiful one. But can you just talk about how that came about, I guess?
Actually, in the movie, and his family, he lives in this, how can you call it, semi basement?
English basement.
Yeah, it's a very 그 한국에 있는 특정한 주거 형태인데. 예.
It's a pretty specific residential structure that exists in Korea.
근데 그게 동시에 또 약간 상징적이기도 한 것 같아요.
But at the same time, it is pretty metaphorical.
그러니까 뭐 아직은 반은이 지하라는 건 반은 지상이라는 거죠. 그러니까 우리는 아직 지상에 있어, 우리는 아직 햇빛이 있어라고 믿고 싶어지는 거니까.
So half underground also means half overground. So it makes the people who live there, believe that they still can go overground.
근데 이제 그 마침내 부잣집에 이제 침투해 들어갔다가 결국은 완전히 지하에 있는 진짜 지하에 있는 사람을 만나게 되는 거죠.
But when they finally succeed in infiltrating the rich house, they meet a man who lives completely underground.
그래서 이제 이 인물의 입장에서 영화를 스토리를 이렇게 압축해 보면 어떻게 보면 되게 간단한 것 같아요. 그러니까 계단을 올라가려고 했던, 땅 위로 올라가려 했던 남자가 결국은 계단을 내려가서 끝나는 스토리인 거죠. 그 벙커로 들어가서 끝나잖아요, 이분이.
So if you summarize this film from the perspective of Ki-taek, it's very simple. It's about a man who tried to climb up the stairs overground and ends with him going down the stairs as it ends with him in the bunker.
I'm gonna go cry now over here. Do we want to do some questions? Yes, right here.
No disrespect to Todd Phillips. This film was more courageous and bolder, as you were not afraid, in my view, of reaching conclusions about the war between the classes. I just saw, since it's a political film, I just saw a cartoon that reminded me of the film, and it was a cartoon about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And it was captioned, "Humanity is being held hostage in a basement. Do we rally, support, and face our oppressor, or do we sneak upstairs at night to steal from the refrigerator?"
와우.
I know. And I don't know if the person who actually made this cartoon saw your film, but that was that. But my question is, personally for you and you and the whole cast, in your hearts, you know, you might have listened to punk rock music, I don't know, but are you a revolutionary, or like in your heart, or are you incremental stage by stage to rectify class divisions?
난 왠지 해결이 안 될 것 같아.
For some reason, I don't think we can ever solve this.
그리고 내가 아들이 있어요. 24살 난 아들이 있는데 우리 아들 세대에도 왠지 해결이 안 될 것 같아요. 되게 무서워요. 그리고 공포감으로 살아가고 있어요.
And I have a 24-year-old son, and I don't think this will ever get resolved even in his generation. I live with that fear.
그 불안과 공포가 있어요. 솔직하게. 그래서 그거를 솔직하게 드러내고 싶었던 건데, 혁명을 꿈꾸려면 상대가 있어야 되잖아요. 뭔가를 타도함으로써. 그러니까 근데 그 상대가 잘 안 보여요. 이제 그 제가 어렸을 때랑은 또 약간 다른 것 같아요. 모든 게 너무 이상하게 모호하게 복잡해졌어요. 혁명은 무엇을 상대로 한 혁명이 있는 건데 뭘 상대로 해야 될지 지금 되게 알기 힘든 것 같아요.
So I live with that anxiety and fear, and that's something that I really wanted to honestly portray with this film. You know, in order to dream of revolution, you need a clear opponent that you can think to defeat. But I think in our current times, it's very difficult to discern our opponents. It's different from when I was little. Everything has become ambiguous and more complicated. So it's become very difficult to know who to fight against.
Yes, here.
Hold for the mic. We only have time for one more question, guys. So
You better make this a good one.
When constructing the character narratives and writing the story itself, how far backwards did you go? In my head, there's a whole prequel movie that starts maybe with the destruction of the Taiwanese restaurant that was mentioned, and then ends with the son devising a plan to con Min to start this movie. So I was wondering if you went backwards, and if so, how far, and if any of that actually did play, or if I just made that up myself.
Yeah. Thank you for question. Actually, during my own screenwriting, in my note there were quite many the background ideas and background some settings. 그러니까 예를 들면은 그 이제 문광 그 가정부 부부가 이제 처음 어떻게 그 이제 지하실로 들어올 때 상황 같은 것들, 그리고 이제 뭐 그들이 점점 형편이 나빠질 때 상황들, 그 다음에 또 그 민이라고 있잖아요. 여기 서브타이틀엔 MIN으로 민으로 나오는데 그 처음 일자리 소개된 그 민과 또 그 리치 와이프의 관계도 되게 오묘한, 뭔가 그들 사이에 뭔 일이 있었던 것 같은데 그런 부분들에 대해서도 뭐 이것저것 써놓은 게 있었죠. 예.
So, for example, I had backstories on the days when the couple in the basement, Moon-gang, the original housekeeper, and her husband, the first days when they entered the bunker, the secret bunker, and what happened when their businesses failed and they were struggling. And also, I had a backstory about Min and the rich housewife. You know, they have a very strange, uncanny relationship.
And also, it also seems quite strange relationship between maybe original housekeeper and the architect. Yeah. So why architect? 왜 남궁현 남이라고 나오죠? 그냥 자막에는 남이 왜그 가정부한테만 그 지하 공간을 보여줘서 그 둘이 또 무슨 사이였을까? 뭐 이런 생각. 예.
So I wondered why that architect only showed the basement to the original housekeeper. What happened between the two of them?
그래서 만약에 이게 뭐 무슨 TV 시리즈로 이렇게 익스팬드 된다면은 할 게 많아요, 막 이것저것. 예.
So if this film were to be expanded into a TV series, there are so many stories to tell.
On that point, my last question, which I think, for me at least, connects to the anxiety of everybody, but also the rich. What do you think happened to the wealthy family without their father as a breadwinner, and were they rich enough to keep going, or in your mind, were they living on the edge themselves? Which in this area, I think we all look around sometimes and see these massive houses and these things that you can't even imagine, and then with certain situations, you realize that they were living sort of an illusion, just the way the poor kind of think they are than themselves. So, did you ever think through what happened to that family?
이제 연교 부자 이제 마나님 같은 경우에는 그분이 이제 뭐 잘 속고 그러지만 또 나름 이제 똑똑하고 강인한 사람이라서 의외로 잘 헤쳐나갈 수 있지 않을까 뭐 이런 얘기 했어요. 그 배우하고도 1년 안에 뭐 재혼할 것 같아 뭐 이런 얘기까지도 하고 막 그랬는데. 예.
So the rich housewife, she is a very gullible character, but she's quite smart, and she's also a very strong character. So I talked with the actress about how surprisingly she will probably, get through the situation very well and possibly get remarried within the next year.
야, 그거는 이제 농담인데 어쨌든 제일 이제 시나리오를 쓰다가 깨달은 건데 이제 제일 좀 걱정되는 게 역시 그 애인 것 같아요. 그 꼬마에 얘 이중의 트라우마는 어떻게 할 것이냐. 그러니까 트라우마 극복 케이크라고 하면서 무슨 이벤트를 했는데 거기서 더 무시무시한 트라우마가 생긴 거 아니에요. 막 그 난장이 벌어졌으니까. 그래서 야, 이 애가 이게 좀 제 정신을 얘의 어떤 트라우마를 어떻게 달래줄 것이며 그 애가 좀 많이 걱정이 되더라고요.
So this is something that I realized while writing the script, but the character that I'm most worried about is the little boy, because his trauma has actually doubled. They put on this event and took out this trauma recovery cake, and something even more horrific happened amidst that chaos. So I felt very worried on how to comfort this little boy, how he will properly function as a human being after this.
그리고 다른 이쪽 집 아들내미를 가난한 집 아들내미를 엄청 이렇게 진짜 좋아하는 것 같았는데 그 둘의 관계는 또 어떻게 되려는지 이제 나중에 이 모든 진실을 알고 나면은 자기 아빠가 또 그렇게 죽었는데 그 오빠를 계속 좋아할 수 있을런지 이 참 내가 쓴 시나리오긴 하지만 좀 잔인하다 결말이 이런 느낌.
And with the rich daughter as well, she really seemed to like the poor son. But what will happen to that relationship once she finds out the truth and, her father died, of course? Can she continue to have feelings for the son? And, I wrote the script, but it's so cruel, the ending.
네, 이 시리즈를 정말 만들어서 이 모든 뒷감당을 이제 책임을 져야 될 것 같아요, 왠지.
So I really do feel the need to create this into a series and really take care of everything that happened.
Yeah, you better take care of everybody. Well, on behalf of our little community here, it's an honor to have one of the world's most interesting and dynamic filmmakers right now, and for the last 15-20 years here with us. And I can't thank you both for coming all this way, and tell everyone to keep coming back, because we really enjoy these experiences, and I can't thank you guys enough.
감사합니다.
Thank you so much.